Well, Christina, thank you very much for coming on to our podcast series. We're going to be going through a range of different topics with guests, IT leaders predominantly, all across Germany. I'm really excited to have you on as a guest, and I think "seize the AI opportunity" was one of the taglines that we spoke on. So, yeah, I want to seize the opportunity to give a bit of platform here to allow you to give an introduction to yourself.
Cool. Then I would say a short introduction from my side. So I think more than 19 years experience. I'm actually proud of it. I know ageism is a thing these days, but I am proud of my experience and where I worked before. And I think, to summarize my experience, I worked in various industries. So online gaming and betting, then luminaires, lighting management systems, IoT sensors, Industry 4.0, digital twin, and then also, of course, retail, and everything was IT for each of these industries. But, each and one of them had a bit of flavor of some hardware, software, a little bit of IoT, digital twin, these kind of things. I think I was also really lucky to work in these amazing companies, Bwin, Betfair, Topol, Adidas, where we were always at the front of technology. So, trying new things, being able to experiment new things. And I think that's really important for anybody who's a leader in this industry in IT. I think it's really important that you never stop learning and you always push yourself, to see what's out there, but also how can I leverage my experience in the areas.
Could you give us some background, Christina, maybe on some of your recent responsibilities? You mentioned Adidas, for example.
Mhm.
Could you give us maybe the viewers some background to this, and I suppose we can dive into some of our questions, some of our topics.
So I've worked in digital tech and web and mobile, supporting the e-commerce for Adidas and Reebok. So I think a couple of platforms and areas where I've worked are content management systems, so rolling that across the platforms and markets. Then of course the product information management platform, rolling that out across different markets. Then there was also personalization. And you can imagine before the AI time, this was more like rules engines. So we started really early from a technical perspective. Then we went into machine learning like everybody else, and then into more AI. So basically, when we talk about personalization, was about the usual, personalization based on customer segments and their preferences, but also trying to get more towards this experiential marketing and advertising. So more towards this implicit personalization, where, to be honest, like there's a long way to go, of course, for all companies out there. But I think where we were up there and with our development in this area. Of course, I was also involved in more stuff like developing applications and services for all sorts of things. I've also worked on the gamer. I don't know if everybody knows it, which was a little tag that you would put in a shoe and it will gather a lot of information of you, while playing football. And then there would be an integration with the FIFA game. So
Mhm.
I think to summarize, there were lots and lots of exciting areas that I've worked in. And I think now the future, of course, is with AI. So this fear of AI,
Yeah.
I think, comes because we did not realize we were doing it more or less for a lot of years,
Yes. Yeah.
but we did not know we were doing it because we are human. We do have this intelligence with ourselves intrinsically. We are born like that.
You spoke about the fear of AI, and I feel like I've changed my tune recently. I met with a really interesting guy in Germany that kind of changed my mind on AI and the capabilities of it. And I think it's very easy to maybe feel threatened by what it brings. And it's usually the people that aren't spending their time to understand fully what it even is, like the history of it and how we can all perhaps use AI to focus our energy on more high value tasks, right? Which is, as a recruiter, this is how I view AI in its probably most simple form. But it isn't a new concept, right? Like I've worked in IT recruitment globally for nearly 15 years, and I don't remember a time when AI hasn't been a thing or been around. It's so much in our faces now, and people are seeing the benefits. And I kind of feel like the general public are warming more to AI and its capability. But Cristina, you're the best person to maybe give some points on this. But what is the history of AI? Like, where does it come from? What is your earliest knowledge of it, and how do you see it changing today?
Yeah, so I think the first time that this term was actually coined and used was in 56.
Oh, really?
Okay, and just to understand a little bit from a generational perspective, that was before my mom was born. Okay, so I think we can say I'm second generation from when the term was coined. And usually, I mean, like with every big technological change, and there's some people saying it requires 3 generations to use it. And then I would also like link it to robotics. It's the same journey. When the robots started, everybody was afraid we're not going to have a job. The robots will take our jobs. But in reality, what has happened, the robots, exactly as you mentioned it, they started doing all this repetitive work so that the humans can focus on more value adding and smarter things. Where you also still need the human interaction, right? I mean, I'm yet to see two robots discussing dependencies on projects or even between applications, right? So I think it's a similar journey. Probably this will be a little bit more accelerated because now we do have this technology. It's a matter of money or not. So if you have the money, then you can buy a tool that will do what you need. If you do not have the money, then you'll develop the tool that you need, right? So yeah, and also what I want to say is everything that the AI is developing and will develop, someone needs to govern it. Someone needs to make sure that we're using ethically, responsibly. We are in line with all the GDPR laws out there. If it's in the financial area, we need to make sure we're compliant with all the financial regulations or online gaming, licensing, everything.
People think AI is the route to make life easy and to make money quickly, but there is so much governance. There's so much thought process that goes into AI, right? And I think even from a basic user of ChatGPT, for example, I've noticed over time how more efficient I've become at the prompts that I give to ChatGPT itself. And I think that is an evolution in itself, isn't it? Is us as humans, how over time can we become better at utilising it for its purpose? And I think that's happening fairly organically. But AI itself, when some examples you give, this all sounds really nice and shiny, right? It sounds very exciting. But I saw a stat recently that for 2024, the AI industry is worth over $500 billion. But at the moment, only 50% of companies that are utilizing AI are past this initial sort of planning phase with it, and the understanding is still so very low. So, what kind of hurdles do you see within AI and within the industry, Cristina? What insight can you give us?
I think you already mentioned the governance. I think this is one of the things. I've seen lots of companies. We gotta do AI, but why? What are the use cases? What are the business problems you're trying to solve? Because we want to do AI, okay, but you do not know for what. You have no idea how you're going to measure the success. The impact on the people, you need to train the people on AI. It's not like I go to a robot and I say, do AI from tomorrow. The governance for AI is quite important. First, I would not see this AI governance disconnected from data governance. Just to explain, everything AI is based on data. Even when you do not have it, then you need to get the data in order for the AI to do its generative AI algorithms and deep learning and, get the neural networks to the next level. So I think from my experience, I would say step 0, get your data governance right, but also think about the AI interdependencies where you would need the data. Once you do that right, I think then you can decide and again come up there, and there are lots of frameworks out there where you would plug in AI or not.
Do you think, Christina, that there are maybe some other areas within IT that companies can maybe take some lessons learned, like maybe, for example, adoption of cybersecurity, right? We've both been in the industry for a long time. Cybersecurity while versions of it existed previously, it sort of became a thing, right? And it was quite difficult to convince people internally to follow rules and procedures. But yeah, I don't know if cybersecurity is the best example of this, but I wonder whether you can see as an IT leader where companies can maybe take some lessons learned from prior innovations.
Yes, I think cybersecurity is definitely an area where AI can help. So I think there are companies who work with these nice hackers, let's call them. You would call them and then you say, hey, can you please find the vulnerabilities in my platforms? Can you do any code injection? Can you crack the cloud or anything like that? I think this is where a proper AI tool can do all these things for you, right? And because we know we had all of these security problems in the past. So, there were different issues with a library in JavaScript or something else. And then the whole world was going crazy until we managed to deal with it. And all of these things, basically, they can be part of the database. And then you have a generative AI and an AI running scenarios from that, how new ways of cracking our code and hacking our code. So definitely cybersecurity is an area where, in my opinion, you need to use AI, because otherwise, honestly, there's so many ways to hack a site. And we as humans, I don't even think that we can think of all the possibilities, right? And then I think some other areas where we can learn from the past in terms of AI is also on the business side, but I don't like to say business because the business development should work together, not this silo thinking. But, when it comes to some business problems, for example, you have the data, you know how many products you have sold in the last 6 months, you know the trend, you know the political, economical factors, and all of this, an AI can actually tell you this is the forecast for the next week, next month, or next year. Of course, this will be dynamically changing, but you can model all of this. I think if you as a company, and now coming back to the statistic of the companies using AI, if you haven't looked proactively of how AI can help with the demand forecast and generation, then there's a problem. That means you're still using Excels, probably with filters. Having a look, you need 30 people to check, what was the demand, how it's going to work, and they're still not going to get it right. I'm not saying that AI will get it right, but there's a higher probability from a statistical perspective, and it's mathematics to get better answers. And you will not need 30 people producing hundreds of Excel files, right, and put them on some server, and then people don't have permissions on it, they don't have access on it. So I think, this is, again, related to the fear of AI. And I can explain that because if I'm not trained in AI, I'm not trained in data, I don't know how to use it, and I've always used my notepad and my Excel file somewhere, of course I'm afraid of it. It's this fear of change, right? And it takes a while to learn about it, to get into it. And this is where coupled with the data and AI governance, you should also have a training plan for everybody. I'm not saying that everybody should learn Python or all these detailed algorithms, but if you're like a product owner working with all these business problems, you should have some data literacy and some AI literacy. And then you would work with a data expert or someone, a Python developer who can actually take the vision, what is the business problem or what you want, and actually put it in a code and get something from it. I think if you do not have a learning plan for your workforce, where you are today and where you need to go, you will have problems sooner or later.
This actually falls in quite nicely with some of the other topics that we're going to be talking about in the podcast series. We're trying to bridge the gap and give real life examples out there of how you can't transform digitally as a business without transforming organizationally, right? And I suppose, and I hear lots of examples from leaders all of the time about some of the challenges around getting everybody in teams to pull into the same direction. And I'd ask you, how do you see that challenge with the adoption of AI, like in the teams at Adidas or in previous editions? How have you bridged this?
I would do a parallel with any change management process. So whenever a new big change is coming, of course, our reptilian brains kick in, and I feel threatened, and they're after my job. What is going on? So I think in order to deal with this, first we need to explain what we are doing and what would also be the benefit for everybody. So, we can clearly explain, instead of you doing all this repetitive work that an AI can do for you, or even automation, right? Then you can focus on better things, and we will train you, and we will make sure that you are ready for the future to do these things. And again, and they might be saying, so I still don't want it. Then I would say you can start with the proof of concept, or with some people who are really into it. Then you show that it's working. They will see their motivation, because these people will be happier. They will not have to do all this repetitive work. And then, of course, I would also want to be happy, even though I was against AI. But of course, this takes a while. But as with any big change, work first with the people who want to do it. I would not do it top down. And I would also not do it bottom up. And I will explain. I think it needs to be met these things need to meet in the middle. So what does it mean? Top down. We got to do AI and use it in this area, tra la 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 la. But it has to be clear why, the vision. And then bottom up, we can say, yes, we got it. However, these are areas where you can use automation. These are areas where you can use AI. And this is how we're going to do it, by training all these people and by also showing at least some win-wins, some short-term wins that we can show to the whole organization and also to our shareholders. Because if we're saying, we're going to spend 5 million to use AI, what for? What is the value proposition? What are we going to get from it?
I suppose it's quite fair to say that it's easy to convince people of the benefits of something if it can make their life easier. I don't know whether maybe there's some good examples you can think of within automation in IT alone, where, let's face it, the human race is inherently lazy. If we know a faster way of doing something, we're going to do it, right? We're going to, especially the modern day that we live in now, everybody wants something immediate. Do you feel that this plays into the advantage of organizations?
Yes, and I do have an example. So let's say I'm in a company, I have a lot of code to write. I know some of it has been written before, and somehow me as a developer, I have the idea, let me create an AI agent who has access to my code base, to everything. I can also put some rules in there and some algorithms. And basically, I just say, please write me a code that will, parse all internet pages with these names, and it will produce this thing. And I think this is a big advantage. And then me as a developer, I can focus on all of the other tasks that basically are more around still writing code, but very tightly coupled with how the application is communicating with downward systems, upward systems, dependencies, the load, the scaling, the performance, how it's going to impact the operations. Of course, an all-encompassing AI can do all of this, but the amount of programming an AI agent who knows everything that a human knows will be immense today. Right? So then I have my AI agent, is writing some code over there. He's busy doing that, but it's going to come up in a couple of seconds because we have the computing power today. While I can actually talk with the other teams to synchronize on the system and how the application performs end to end. And this is where I see some big advantages of using AI. Even before AI, you could have a tool that will check the health of your code. And honestly, I cannot mention the number of companies where copy paste was king, right? And like 60% of your code would never be used, but it was written because someone thought perhaps at some point I'm going to need an algorithm for that, right? But when you do these code analysis things and you see it, you're like, what the heck happened there? I was a developer, so I understand it because I'm also thinking I might also need an algorithm like this, one like this. I might also need this and that. But actually, when I'm talking with my peers and the rest, you just need 30% of your code that you have written, right? And AI doesn't think like that. It just executes the task and that's it. So I think this is a big advantage, one area where you could use it. Yeah.
Where do you see the drawbacks in AI, Cristina?
Oh, I think it's famous, this term in the industry, the hallucination that can happen with AI. And it's not like an AI goes crazy and suddenly the data that comes out is just not usable. I think it also depends on the data that you provide to the AI, because if this data is already biased, then the outputs will be even more so biased. So I think this risk of hallucination means sometimes the data is not right, the algorithms are not properly tested, because you should always test what comes out. But then still there is a chance that there's a new variable, a new correlation that comes out that will make the AI hallucinate and create all this biased data. So I think this is one big risk. Then the second one would be even your databases, the data that you provide is not complete. And then again, there will be some gaps. And the third thing would be if your AI has access to things it should not, like data that is private data or all sorts of things, or you're not using the AI ethically. And we do have examples here. There's no need for me to mention them, right? In image processing and lots of video processing and lots of other things, then you could end up in real big trouble. And unfortunately, AI is also misused and abused in some industries and areas. And this is where the regulation is quite important, but also like stopping it from happening in the first place.
Do you think over time this will become better or worse, the misuse of AI?
So I'm still an optimist. I do see the risks as a program manager, project manager, but I'm still an optimist because I think I'm interacting with AI every day, in personal life, at work, and everybody does. And these algorithms, they're learning from us. So sooner or later, they will get to the point where, they would be able to perform a lot of the things that we are. And that's why I'm still an optimist, because if we regulate this properly and we do it properly, then and we somehow guide where it should go, it should not be that hard. But of course, not everybody has this thinking.
It's quite interesting. We keep dipping into this topic, but we're talking about AI and artificial intelligence and human nature, right? The two polarizing topics themselves. But I'm fascinated by actually the benefit that it can do for mankind. Like there must be so much more advancements nowadays towards the medicine industry, pharmaceuticals, and all of these things, right? In
Yeah.
your, what do you see to be, I suppose, some key areas that AI can help?
I think health is one of the most prominent and most promising areas for AI. So I was just reading the other day, there are some hospitals who have created these AI agents and
Mhm.
given access to x-rays for the last 10, 15 years on people who had cancer or were about to develop cancer. And then the AI agent was able, just by looking on some images, which were like a pixel level or really, really like small, to say this will develop into cancer, this will not. So I think this is really important because you also have lots of false positives in medicine.
Yeah.
Or you have people who know how to read x-rays, some not so well, or the experience, the tumor types are different types. So I think this is already happening. And imagine also like where AI has all these databases and you would give all the symptoms and it can say, actually, this is a very rare symptom of X, where only, let's say, you will have 3 or 4 specialists in the world who can actually diagnose that. And I think there are lots of examples out there, and I also have friends and also in my family where cancer was diagnosed late.
Mhm.
And then basically the people were not given much, in terms of life expectancy. And actually, even in that case, AI could help because they tried one treatment, was working up to a point when the cells adapted. But then you can also use AI to try different cocktails of chemotherapy, different cocktails of medicine. And even in my family, for example, my dad was like on a different treatment that I think was found through AI. And that worked up to a point, right? But I think if we can use AI in the first place to be more proactive in finding these diseases, we will not get to a place where, you get told you have 1 or 2 years to live. You actually can get away from cancer. And I think in the medical industry, there's so many diseases that we cannot actually explain, right?
No.
Where we have an idea, and especially for women, because most of the studies are biased towards men. And basically, we still have lots of women dying of heart attacks, and lots of diseases for women where we can say, oh, probably a diet might help you, or there might be a hormone imbalance, but we actually do not know. And
No.
I think an AI, if you put all that data and it's really an advanced algorithm which has all this data from all these women in the past, it can actually say, nope, that's not the hormone imbalance, and the diet will actually not help you. It's actually a metabolic syndrome or something like this, right? But again, I'm coming back, you need data.
Yeah.
If you're not governing the data right and you do not properly collect this data or label it and screen it up for biases, then of course you cannot properly use AI. Yeah.
This is a big problem, isn't it? Is you're talking about biases, the reliance on AI, particularly maybe in my use case for I mentioned for finding specific information, is can AI or can these particular tools that you might use develop a bias? So while you feel like the information that you're receiving in return is gospel, is completely accurate, there is a chance that people are going to be given misinformation.
Yeah. I have an example here. So I was working on generating a photo of, I was thinking a woman with some balloons, something.
Yeah.
And let's just say that after 45 minutes of talking with the AI, he didn't get it what I want to do. And I know I'm good at prompting because I've had lots of practice. And basically, I just wanted someone more diverse there, but it wouldn't do it. And at the end, I gave up. So I think if the AI has access to data that's biased and it's incomplete, then again, it will not work, right? And then, of course, like we have to check what the AI is producing and also think about these things. Now, for very complex algorithms where the AI is actually a black box, we have no idea how the AI got to that conclusion.
Yes.
And that's also happening in the good cases where we need to understand how it got to that conclusion so that we can use it further. So I think, one idea in these cases would be to split the problem into simpler problems and try to solve them one by one. So simplify the use cases and somehow solve it one by one so that we can understand how it works. And conversely, there were cases where the AI learned so much about the subject that it produced the perfect result that a human would produce. And again, we cannot explain it, right?
No.
So there's so much to understand about how AI works.
Okay. For anyone, individuals or businesses, I suppose, trying to adopt the technology, what would be your advice for anybody looking to start their AI journey?
I would say first and foremost, talk to people in your industry, but not only. So you're in industry X, then find the people who have adopted AI, you have seen it working, you have proof of that, and then talk to them. It could be they will not give you the nitty gritty, right? The stuff that, they work hard to get to, but, some pointers like the algorithms or AI. And honestly, there is competition in every industry, but you can also collaborate and make it a win-win. So I think this would be the first one. See how others have done it before, because if you're not doing that, you're gonna go again through their try and fail journey, and it will be a long one. So talking to your peers in the area, but also go to round tables. Then the third one, conferences, summits. And then there are great resources out there. So MIT Technical Review, McKinsey reports, Gartner reports. Some of them are with money, some are not, but honestly, they're totally worth it because they do these large industry studies. And then basically, you can see, look at my industry. These are the AIs that are working. These are the ones that are not. This is where it's going. And it will give you an idea where to start.
Thanks for listening to part one of this fascinating conversation with Cristina. We'll be continuing the conversation next week, where we'll start to open up Cristina's newly coined phrase, BizDevSecAIOps.